All right, Pavol. Thank you very much for taking your time here at the Future Battery Forum 2024 to talk about battery production. So you're from GIB, right?
That's correct.
And I want to shine light on how collaboration and joint ventures work in Europe for Europe. But before we jump into today's discussion, I would like to understand, how did you enter the field of batteries?
Hi, Simon. Thank you very much for the invitation. My pleasure to be here. And so my name is Pavol, the managing director of the GIB, Gotion about batteries. And how I jumped into battery field, it was a coincidence. So I was not a former engineer in terms of chemistry or electrochemical science or field. I studied finance and did work in some project development and project construction industry and finance field as well. But then I came to a stage where I wanted to really try something new, and where I saw a positive trend for the future and was related to sustainability. And 7 years ago in Europe, this was just emerging battery field in Europe, and there was one small company called Inobat, which nobody heard about in the past 7 years ago. And so the founder, Marian Bocek, the CEO, I mean, I somehow got connected with him, passed through some interviews, and he called me up to say, let's try this challenge together, build a battery factory in Slovakia. So actually I started as the first employee in Inobat. We started literally from a napkin. When I came, we didn't even have a presentation. And then was just like, try, learn, succeed, fail, and learn. So like do and repeat. So that's how I actually ended up, started in the battery field, and I still stick to it. And it's an exciting journey since then.
How did the journey unfold? So you were at Inobat for how many years, and then when did you start the GIB journey?
So I was at Inobat for like 5 to 6 years. So I started like first employee. We scaled up to like 120 employees. We have built the pilot plant in Slovakia, which already producing NMC pouch cells, high nickel with high nickel chemistry. Also shipped to some customers. And then, but however, as we already did manufacturing production, we did see it's a really big challenge to scale up. Okay, even on a small pilot line, which we did was 0.5 ppm, was really difficult, or a challenge to master the yield and the OE and so on. So we knew to scale up and go big, we need a partner. So we are open for a partnership, and it was again like I would say like a destiny or coincidence or the right momentum on the market when Gotion was entering the Europe. Gotion High Tech, which is now I think top 5, top 7 battery company in the world, and they're looking for a European partner. And somehow we met with Gotion. We got in touch. They came to Slovakia, and after assessment of different countries and different potential strategic parks for GIGafactory, they decided to set up a joint venture with Inobat in Slovakia. And since I was also in the beginning of this journey, it was like kind of like natural transition to go to GIB, Gotion Inobat Batteries. And this is a joint venture which is owned by 80% by Gotion and 20% by Inobat. So for 2 years or 3 years, I'm actively working on the project, and more than, I think, around like 2 years now, I'm managing director of the company.
Yeah. Okay. So
and
then,
fully dedicated on to the GIB joint venture and GIGafactory in Slovakia.
Yeah. So let me ask you the question on the key innovation that GIB now provides to the European battery industry.
I think the key innovation is that I would say one of the first joint ventures with the European player, that are one of first joint venture between like truly European player and truly Chinese player, right? Even though Gotion is owned by 22% or in the amount of 25% by Volkswagen Group. So it's not just pure Chinese company. It has a lot of already global footprint and culture. Nevertheless, still they have never built a factory in Europe on the cell level, cell production. They do have a battery assembly plant in Göttingen in Germany, Gotion, but to build batteries, which is totally different level, is their also first factory in Europe. So the uniqueness is that combination of the Chinese excellence in production with local support of local European partner, which knows the environment, the culture, government relations, etc., which helps to build the trust also among local communities and stakeholders and governments, which is essential actually to be able to deliver the project successfully and fast track the project.
Okay. So regarding the topic of today that you're discussing here in the panel is on scaling up production, right? What can you say about from your past experience at Inobat, but also now at the work at Gotion, working also together with the people at Gotion and building up on this experiences that is coming over from Asia? Can you shine light a little bit and give us an inside view on how the work is evolving? So where are the points that you're profiting from, where you're learning, but what are also maybe the strength that the Europeans can also deliver to this industry already?
It's a very broad question and complex one. Nevertheless, I think it comes to a few points. So I think it's very simple and the most difficult. It's the yield and production at scale. So, or the yield at scale, to be able to achieve very high yield and stable production process. And this is something that was mastered in China. They are really excellent in scaling up and industrializations of the product. Why this is important? Because when you look on the cell cost or the breakdown of the cell cost, material amounts to approximately 65% of the cell cost. So if you lose 1% of your or 5% of your yield or 10%, it's a huge impact on the final euros per kilowatt hour cost, right?
Yes.
So yield essential. Then second, how fast you can ramp up, so the speed. And this is driven by experience as well. When you look to China, you have handbooks, right? If you compare to Europe, there are no handbooks. There are people who know how to produce batteries. Let's say you can call a bunch of engineers from different countries, even from Asia. But at the end, do you have a handbook for the specific battery, specific design material, the process, equipment, everything? And what I think differs a lot is the combination of all the related parties, internal, external, such as cell designers, process design engineers, equipment vendor engineers, materials engineers working all together at once to master the transition from pilot production to large-scale production. Innovation is on a good level in Europe. I think Europe is very good in innovation, but I think this is something that it's amazing how in Asia it's been mastered and done to scale up. So like one thing about the yield and the processor, and second thing is that when you look on the like stable players, when they go commercial or on a large scale, they do like incremental improvements of the proven technology. They don't go right away to disruptive technology. Let's say dry coating on 8 gigawatt-hour scale, right? Because it's not mastered and you are facing big risks. So if you want to change, you change one thing, not 20 things when you want to do something at the scale. I think this was, big differences when Europe started battery production. I saw different expectations from what battery production is. It's not a car production. It's not OEM industry. It's like chemical manufacturing, electrochemical industry, which is super robust and difficult to.
It's a new industry, right? And so it's interesting to hear that you say like two things that I noted down to summarize your statements, right? So one thing is handbooks. So what I interpret this as is there's experiences that was documented in a structured manner, and really the lessons learned, the failures, everything noted down and saying like, hey, this is the recipe, this is the methodology that works.
Correct.
And so if I understand it correctly, it's more like work than geniusness in that regard.
I mean, they were genius 10 years ago, right? Or 20 years ago when they came up with the technology, right? But then it took really 10 to 20 years to master. When you look
to get the reps in and to
now
hit the training ground more.
Exactly.
More
so
often.
It's genius in both technology and also the production. And when you look, maybe just one example, I don't want to talk about it too much, but when you look on Asia 20 years ago or 10 years ago, we had 300 battery players. It's down to how many? 10? 5, which matters. And now we expect in Europe that every battery player makes it.
Yeah, it's a natural selection, right? And of course, and that's why we're here, right? We're trying to support each other and helping everyone who has deliver value and bring value to our industry to succeed. So let me therewith ask you the critical question that is always in the room. How do you see this Asian-European collaboration? I mean, of course, you have an opinion about this, but I would like to see this reflected in this format. So how do you see the involvement of Asian companies in Europe for the European battery industry?
I think it's just so first of all, I can be biased because I'm working for the
Sure.
joint venture which is Chinese European, but I work for it because I believe in this concept that we should collaborate, not fight each other. Why shall we block some companies or some kind of technology which is the master of the art
Which has
at the
already done the
moment
work.
and have done it all, and try to compete and develop something from the new? If we had like 100 years, okay, let's try, right? But we don't have 100 years to change. So also it's about the matter of the speed and the fast transition we want to make. So we do support collaboration model. I think our joint venture is a good example that it's possible. You must have open-minded both sides, also European, also Chinese. You must learn how to adapt, make compromises, educate a lot, which you are maybe not usually used to.
On both sides, or
on both sides, of course, both sides, and then learn for each other. Yeah, that's I think the way how to do it. Of course, there is. I'm not saying this is the only potential route how to succeed, but I believe this is one of the routes which has the biggest chance for success. And you can see the examples also of CATL. They started alone in Germany, Hungary. Now they're forming joint venture with Stellantis, right? Why? Maybe they learned something. They found
that
out.
is very interesting, because that actually leads me over to my next question. And I briefly touched on this in my conversation with Marian and when I visited Inobat in Boderadi. What the Asians can actually learn from the Europeans coming over here, because there's a reason why those joint ventures are built, right?
Yep.
So can you shine light on that?
I would say at the end, the time is all what matters. That's first time, and the longevity, because you want to do it properly for long term.
So I mean time in terms of ramp up and getting the factories built fast, or?
Time in terms of the speed to start construction and commission
So
the
the
plant.
Europeans help the Chinese on that?
I will explain why. Second is the longevity, how we do it. And how we do it, I mean, you want to be a good neighbor in the country or in the community for long term. When you lose support of local community, your project is hell. Yeah. And how to do it? So first, to start constructions fast, you can hire a bunch of consultants. They will only consult. They will never take the skin in the game and properly advise you how to do it. Right? That's I believe you must have a local team and local partner who is willing to take the risk and skin in the game and can assure and guarantee how to do it in the best manner locally. Even if Slovakia goes to Hungary, I would not do it with Slovak team. I would do it with Hungarian team. And it's, across the border. But it's already some nuances, some differences which matters. Imagine Chinese company coming here. When you want to do something in China, you don't even need to have like proper building permit. In Europe, this is unheard of, right? You can start a lot of things in parallel. So a lot of like technical challenges and bridges and permitting ideas, or aspects which is good if local partner educate you, so they can focus on the important thing which you can do the best, and that's the equipment, process, manufacturing, so on, and leave the construction on the local expertise, because local expertise knows how to do it the fastest way. And not to lose year 1 or 2 years trying and try different consultants, different companies, different engineers, right? Yeah. And then about the longevity, it's the second one is the fact that how you do it. You must do a huge amount of education with local communities. It's not like I come here, I'm going to build battery production and that's it. You must educate people, explain them it's not toxic.
You have to build an ecosystem around the factory,
build ecosystem, right? And you need to engage local people around and in the project, in the story, and then you can get support, and then everything you do and you want to expand, etc., they see benefits of your investment, and then that's how you can also like last long as a project.
Okay, I understand. Good. So I asked 3 questions as final questions to everyone in this format, to every guest on the show. And I would also like to ask them to you. And that are, for one, the key challenges that you see holding Europe back. The second one is the potential that you see. And finally, your call to action, if you would have one advice. So let's start off with the key challenges that you see for the European battery industry. in a bullet point?
In bullet points, I think I will repeat myself now, but is the maturity of the technology to be ready for scale.
Mm-hmm.
There are some good technologies in pilot productions or in B sample stages or C sample, even maybe D sample, but then the challenge is to really make it economic. That's the point. Make it economic. That's one challenge.
Full line.
Full line.
Yeah.
Master the scale, yield, full line, and continuity. Money, quality, continuity. All right. That's the one of these. Yeah. And what was the second?
And how about the potential? So on the positive end,
so I think
where do you see Europe is shining?
So at the end, I think it's positive. The whole is positive. I think it's just the fact that we have these already emerging companies in Europe. It's positive, and we have potential collaborations with not just Chinese but Koreans, other companies. That's super positive. However, I think Europeans are really good and fast in innovation. So I think innovation, it's a big potential. And I think Europe, when it learns how to produce, it learns the key critical criteria aspects of the battery field and how to master industrialization. And then in the future, when it combining with innovation, maybe we'll be at the end, vice versa.
Okay. So,
but it takes time. It takes time. We need to be patient. So the advice would be positive. Change is happening. The whole transition, experience and languages, it's gaining. People are gaining it. But I think the industry must be patient and not to have too much hopes or not too much expectation for building Rome in 2 days.
So your call to action is one advice to all industry stakeholders and politicians and potentially also investors.
Don't change the targets 2035. Just stay with those targets. There was fluctuation on the market, up and down, but the trend is there. The trend is positive, maybe 20% increase every year. So why to change the markets? Why to change the targets, right, from 2035? You can discuss about some technological enhancements or changes like plug-in hybrids or range extenders, but I think just keep the same signal that the transition is important, and companies already invested in the transitions from OEMs to supply chain. So just keep up the trend and focus and master the art.
Okay, thank you, Pavol, for the insights, and also looking forward to potentially meet you at GIBxEnergy at one time.
My pleasure. You are invited anytime. The door is open for you.
Thank you
very much.